Hello my dear friends and welcome to StudyIQ. I am Joycey Joy and today in this lecture we will be discussing about the concerns in the anti-dumping duty or the ADD. So ADD refers to anti-dumping duty. Let us first analyze what is the current affair. So the Indian economy continues to be hurt by the dumping of products from other countries, and because of this dumping of products from other countries, the domestic manufacturers or the domestic industries in the country is harmed. So this requires a need for clear procedure to levy the anti-dumping duties. So the anti-dumping duties or the ADD must be properly levied, and this is the solution to the problem of dumping from other countries which affects the domestic industries or the domestic producers. First of all, let us see why should an anti-dumping duty levied. So we have seen that anti-dumping duty is levied in order to counter dumping. So we should be able to define what is dumping. So let us see what is dumping. Dumping is a process where a company exports a product at a price lower than the price it normally charges in its home market. For example, a company ABC. This company is based in China, and this company ABC exports some commodities or goods it produces to another country. Let us take India. So company ABC, which is based in China, exports its goods to India, and we call this exporting as dumping when these exports are made at a price lower than the price in Chinese economy. Suppose this company has exported some commodities into India at a price which is lower than the price of the same commodity in China. We call it as dumping. That means dumping is excessive export of products from one country to another at a price lower than the price available in the home country. So as a result of dumping, what will happen? From this example, let us understand. Suppose this company ABC dumps or exports a lot of commodities into India. What is the impact in Indian economy? The consumers in the Indian economy will depend on the products of ABC because the price is low. So because of the availability of the commodity at lower prices, the consumers will consume the commodity produced by ABC, and this will impact the domestic producers in Indian economy. So there might be some other producers in Indian economy who are producing the same commodity, but the price would be more than the price of the produce of ABC. So as a consumer, what we will do? We will opt to buy the product of ABC because the price is low. So this is in brief dumping. Now, an anti-dumping duty is a protectionist tariff that a domestic government imposes on foreign imports. Now let us come back to the example. So in this example, we have seen ABC, a Chinese-based company, exports commodities from China to India at a price lower than the price in the home market. So in order to counter this, what Indian government will do? Indian government will impose a tariff, and this tariff is called a protectionist tariff. Why? Because the aim of this tariff is to protect the domestic industries. We have seen that the domestic industries are harmed due to this dumping. So the government has to protect the domestic manufacturers or the domestic industries. So in order to protect the domestic industries, the government will impose a tariff. It is a protectionist tariff, and this is called anti-dumping duty. So with this tariff, what happens? Exports from China becomes expensive, and with the imposition of the tariff, the prices of the goods will increase. So this will lessen the demand for the exported goods from China, and this will help the domestic manufacturers. This will protect the domestic manufacturers from excessive imports from other countries at cheaper rates. Now, if we consider Indian economy as a market, India is one of the largest consumption economies in the world. One reason is due to its huge population size, and for this reason, India becomes a potential ground for dumping. And India faces dumping from countries especially like China, Taiwan, South Korea, etc. So if we take the case of China, we will see that the Chinese government incentivizes the producers or manufacturers in Chinese economy to increase the exports. So These incentives are provided in the form of subsidies. So when the government provides subsidies to producers or to manufacturers, what happens? The cost of production comes down. So with lesser cost of production, these companies or industries are able to sell their commodities at lower price. And this lower price means the exports will increase. And the intention of the Chinese economy is to keep a balance of payment surplus. So the current account of Chinese economy is in surplus because of this increased exports from the Chinese economy. So this is one important policy of the Chinese government to provide subsidies to the industries or manufacturers in order to produce the goods at lower cost and increase the exports from the economy. But for economies like India, it has a countering effect because it will affect the domestic manufacturers. The consumers will buy the products at lower price. So the industries, the local industries are being affected because of this dumping policies of other economies. Now, for this reason, we need to have a strong anti-dumping policy. So this is the significance or importance of a strong anti-dumping policy for India. Hope this basic understanding is clear for you. Now let us understand what are the concerns before India in dealing with the dumping from other economies. The first one is the problems with the DGTR. So what is DGTR? It is Directorate General of Trade Remedies. DGTR or the Directorate General of Trade Remedies is responsible for looking at the unfair trade practices by exporters from other countries. So dumping is a unfair trade practice and DGTR is responsible authority that should look into the unfair trade practice, that is dumping. So dumping must be dealt by the DGTR. But what is the problem of DGTR? It is understaffed or it is inadequately staffed. So DGTR has only 7 coasting officers and 5 investigating officers, and even among them the allocation of work is uneven. So this has resulted in delay and arbitrariness in decision making. So this is one important concern. Now coming to the second concern, it is duty imposition related concerns. Generally, an initial investigation is conducted in case of dumping or any other unfair trade practice. And if during the initial investigation any injury on account of dumping is found out, what is done? An interim duty is levied. And this interim duty is levied in order to provide a immediate relief to the industries in India. And a final duty will be levied after extensive investigation. So from the initial investigation, if it is found that Indian industries are harmed or domestic manufacturers are affected due to dumping, interim duty will be levied. And finally, after extensive investigation, final duty will be levied. But since 2009, we will see that the imposition of interim duties as well as final duties has delayed. And this delay in the imposition of final duties as well as the interim duties has resulted in the shutting down of many MSMEs. So MSMEs are micro, small and medium entrepreneurs. So they are largely harmed due to dumping. They are not competent enough to catch up with the major players. For example, in many cases, getting a case initiated itself is taking a lot of time. So even if a case is initiated, it has to get an approval to impose anti-dumping duty from the finance ministry. So there is again delay in getting this sanction. So initiating a case is delayed and again levying of anti-dumping duties is again delayed. So it means altogether there is a delay, and by that time the MSMEs will be losing its competitive edge and it won't be able to compete with the international players and they will have to shut down. So it has largely affected the MSMEs in Indian economy. And remember, the MSME sector is considered as the backbone of Indian economy. This is because of their GDP contribution as well as its contribution towards employment generation. So if the MSME sector is badly affected due to this dumping, it means the Indian economy as such is impacted. The GDP, employment generation, everything is impacted. The next concern is with regard to sunset review. So what is meant by a sunset review? The anti-dumping duty or the ADD is applicable only for a selective period. And after that period, if dumping still continues, the industry can apply for a sunset review, and this is at the end of 5 years. So in the global practice, what is sunset review? In the global practice, once an industry applies for a sunset review, the anti-dumping duty is extended for 1 year pending investigation. That means, for example, anti-dumping duty is imposed for 5 years, and suppose towards the end of this 5 years an industry is applying for a sunset review because the dumping is still continuing. So in other countries, what will be done? This 5 years period will be extended by a further 1 year period. So the industries, the domestic industries will get a additional protection for 1 more year. But in India, what is the practice? In India, industries has to apply for sunset review 9 months before the expiry of ADD or the anti-dumping duty. So let us take the same example. Anti-dumping duty is for a selective period, and suppose it is for 5 years. So in the global practice, in other countries, this will be extended for 1 year. But in India, what is the practice? Before the expiry of the 5 years, that is 9 months before the expiry of this 5 years selective period for anti-dumping duty, the Indian industries has to apply for the sunset review. That means this 1 year advantage which other countries provides for its domestic industries are not provided in case of Indian industries. So Indian industries does not have this extra 1 year protection period if sunset review is applied for. Also, another problem is that the DGTR, the Directorate General of Trade Remedies, which is the authority to look into unfair trading practices, in almost every cases the DGTR rejects the sunset review application. So this is the concern with sunset review application in case of Indian industries. Now another concern is the difference of opinion. For example, let us take the year 2018. So in the year 2018, 7 sunset review applications were received by the DGTR. But out of the 7, only 1 was extended. That means the sunset review for only 1 industry or 1 application was extended. And also the DGTR is hesitant to extend the anti-dumping duty beyond 10 years. We have seen that the anti-dumping duty is for a specific period. And in case of India, in most of the cases, the anti-dumping duty is levied for less than 10 years. And the argument of DGTR, the Directorate General of Trade Remedies, is that 10-year period is enough for the industry to become competitive with the global players. But what is the claim of the industries? The industry players argue that as long as dumping continues, anti-dumping duty needs to be in place to protect the domestic industry. So there is a difference of opinion between the DGTR as well as the industries. So what is the claim of industry? They say that as long as dumping is there, anti-dumping duty should be there. But DGTR says that maximum period of 10 years will be provided for imposing anti-dumping duties, because 10-year period is enough for the Indian industries or domestic industries to become competent with the international players. So this difference of opinion between DGTR as well as the industry is another major concern in imposing the anti-dumping duties. Now, next major concern is with regard to the duty collection. That is anti-dumping duty collection. Here we need to understand what is meant by dumping margin. So a dumping margin means the difference between normal value and the export price of the goods under complaint. Under dumping, we have seen that the export price will be lower than the normal value or the market value. So the difference between export price and the market value is called the dumping margin. So ideally, what should be the anti-dumping duty? It should be equal to the dumping margin or lesser amount. So the intention of the anti-dumping duty should be that the export price plus anti-dumping duty equals to market value, or it becomes more than the market value. So this should be the ideal condition. And when the anti-dumping duty is lesser, it leads to lesser duty. So lesser duty means lesser of dumping margin or injury margin. In case of India, India follows a lesser duty rule. That means the export price plus the anti-dumping duty imposed by India will together be lesser than the market value. That means even after imposing the anti-dumping duty, the market value of the commodities will be higher. That means the exported commodities, the commodities that has reached the Indian market from other countries, those commodities has lesser price. That means the anti-dumping duties imposed by India is not able to protect the domestic manufacturers. So the domestic manufacturers will be protected only if the imported commodity prices are equal to the market value or more than the market value. So in case of India, even after imposing the anti-dumping duties, the price of the imported commodities are lesser than the market value, so that the domestic producers are not benefited out of levying this anti-dumping duty. And the government, the finance ministry, argues that low price imports are good for the country. So these are the concerns in imposing anti-dumping duty in India. Now let us see what is the way ahead. So as a result of increasing dumping in the future, in the long run, what will happen? This low priced imports will eventually kill the domestic industry. So once the domestic manufacturers disappear from the market, what happens? Indian economy will completely be dependent on import. In order to avoid such a situation, the DGTR, the Directorate General of Trade Remedies, it is the authority. So DGTR has to lay down a clear procedure on levying anti-dumping duties in India. And this clear procedure laid down by the DGTR should be able to balance the interest of domestic producers as well as consumers. The domestic producers needs protection from dumping, and the local consumers, they want commodities to be available at lesser prices or competitive prices. So the protection of the interest of both these parties, the producers as well as the consumers, must be taken care of. You can find the PDF of this lecture on my Facebook page. And for any queries related to your UPSC preparations, you can get in touch with me on my Facebook page, or you can email me at joycey.studyiq@gmail.com. Thank you.